distinguished invitees, the scholars in the main table. I'm going to talk about, my topic is that the interlinkages between media industry to strengthen China-Sri Lanka Alliance. Well, before I start, I must explain to you what Sri Lanka's media is all about. Sri Lanka has a long tradition of independent media. If you go to the real history, we have about nearly 2,000 years of the history of recording our events, and we are preserving this unbroken tradition in a book called the Mahavans or the Great Chronicle. And having said that, the first print, the Sri Lanka's media's, the first connection with the print media came in the 18th century, actually in 1737 during the Dutch period, when they brought, when they introduced the printing press. Later, but however, the print journalism as such developed when the British colonized Sri Lanka, and in the middle of the 19th century, they used journalism to proselytize people. And the locals like Sinhalese and the Tamils, they also used the press to counter this proselytization movement. And this is how our print journalism developed, and soon it gave the print media, the local media, an opening to fight colonial occupation. And the media really played a major role in Sri Lanka's independence struggle in the early 20th century, and we received independence in 1948. And after the independence, the press freedom, which were during the British period, we were really fighting them, and had some freedom, it suffered with a section of media becoming politically colored. Soon there emerged the three streams of media. A, the objective media, the good journalists; the state-owned media, the bad journalists; and the privately owned partisan media. This is virtually the good, bad, and the ugly of Sri Lanka's journalism. And we saw in recent times, Sri Lanka, some sections of the Sri Lanka's media being, guided by, we talk about fake news in America and other places. President Trump is, very famous for using this word, fake news. But we also saw, in reality, it happened in Sri Lanka too, especially during the run-up to the recent election. Fake media, fake news was very, very, very prevalent. And some journalists, analysts call this kind of journalists who take money and, agenda-driven journalism is called prostitute. Well, due to our colonial past, our media has a culture. Our media culture is little bit anti-imperialist. Whichever the big power, it tries to impose its views on us, and if there is no transparency in whatever its actions, the media, really, write about it. And recently we saw Sri Lanka's media was very well, articles and programs on television appeared on the United States SOFA agreement and access of the acquisition of acquisition of logistics agreement. So these things are being highly condemned, and the Americans were also trying to promote, trying to give Sri Lanka something called Millennium Cooperation Challenge, which the local media also try to show, criticize it and say that this is trying to divide the Sri Lankan country and trying to get Americans military access. So it shows the media is very, very active. So when the Chinese government also came to Sri Lanka, we did not see this much of opposition to the Chinese assistance or Chinese investment. There is a reason for that, because Sri Lanka-China relations go back to centuries. Okay, and it started in the 5th century when a Buddhist monk called Fa came to Sri Lanka for meditation, and then later on the famous Chinese mariner Zheng He visited Sri Lanka several times, and the trade improved between the two countries. So this is one thing being, this is history being taught, and we have a special relations with China. Sri Lanka received independence in 1948. A year later, China received its independence, and with Sri Lanka became, Sri Lanka was one of the first countries recognized China as China's recognition, because there was an issue whether to recognize Chiang Kai-shek's government in Taiwan or China. So we recognize the People's Republic of China in spite of pressure from certain Western powers on Sri Lanka, because Sri Lanka was a British colony. So since then, China and Sri Lanka had teamed up to promote Afro-Asian solidarity movement, and even before we opened embassies in each other's country in 1957, Sri Lanka and China in 1952 signed a landmark agreement called Rubber Rice Deal. This is win-win. Is not a win-win deal for Sri Lanka. It is a double win deal for Sri Lanka in Sri Lanka's favor, because China agreed to buy Sri Lanka's rubber at a price higher than the market value, and it sold its rice to Sri Lanka at a price lower than market value. So Sri Lanka was, these are things Sri Lankans remember. So when BRI came to Sri Lanka, BRI projects came to Sri Lanka, these things were in the backdrop, was made of these good memories. So Sri Lanka and China friendship based on a common stand on global justice also, because both countries opposed to imperialism, expansionism. This was seen in the Bandung Conference, and subsequently, though China could not become an unaligned movement member, China really gave the moral support to the non-aligned movement, and the BMIC, Bandaranaike Memorial International Conference Hall, is a massive sprawling complex in Sri Lanka, and in Colombo it stands a monument as a China-Sri Lanka friendship. So during the 30 years civil war in Sri Lanka too, China's help was really appreciated. China really helped us to win the war, supplying weapons and other equipment. So with this help, and with the backdrop being formed in such good memories, it was not difficult for Sri Lanka's president in 2005, or the war-winning Sri Lanka's President Mahinda Rajapaksa then, to go for this Chinese investment, and which later developed as the BRI projects. And some of these key projects are the Colombo Port City project and the Hambantota port area, Hambantota Harbour project. Hambantota is in the southern tip of Sri Lanka. It is said whoever controls Hambantota, strategically an important place, controls the entire southern ocean, or all the way up to Antarctica. There is no country. So this is actually a militarily, strategically a significant port. So therefore there is a lot of conflict, big power projects, big power conflicts are happening in my part of the world, and the Americans are there, the Indians want a share, and but the Chinese have clearly said, our presence in Hambantota is exclusively commercial. There is no military. We don't have any military ideas there. So this being so there are some questions about the Chinese investments. They talk about the debt trap, etc., and China will give money, then they will trap you in a debt trap, and then they will get your assets. So this is a propaganda, I think, being carried out by China's opponents in the region as well as world. So economic cooperation, China is Sri Lanka's biggest trading partner, and by 2005, it had, overcome Japan as the Sri Lanka's largest donor. So now China is Sri Lanka's largest donor as well as the Sri Lanka's biggest trading partner. The BRI is compatible with Sri Lanka's economic vision, making its key ports and regional and international hub of trade and investment. That's the government's goal also, to make Colombo's port city and the Hambantota as regional trading hubs, and these things are, so BRI is very complementary for Sri Lanka's economic development and economic vision. So now I come to the media's role. Okay, we said we have shared values, like say promoting global justice, promoting, opposing expansionism, opposing imperialism. So with these shared values, which are mutually beneficial, compatible economic visions and world peace, the media's role is very, very imperative to make things happen, to take these things to the visions to the people. The United Nations has acknowledged that trade plays a major role in alleviating global poverty. So therefore, I believe BRI, which promotes trade between nations, which promotes interdependence, is a must for world peace. So we need media cooperation in among the BRI countries to promote world peace through world trade. So in this way, BRI is very important and the media can play a major role. Then trade and cultural exchanges between the two countries are also important. Sadly, there are also fears, I talked about that, but to allay the misconceptions and to take the message of peace through trade forward, and explain to the people that there exists a bountiful harvest to be reaped through BRI projects, journalists need to play a key role. So where do we look at? Now we had, the Sri Lankan journalists, we were connected to the Commonwealth. So we had some time back, I know now the BRI network, news network is being promoted by President Xi Jinping. But it has not come to Sri Lanka. Sri Lankan media people did not know anything about BRI, the Belt and Road News Network which was launched in somewhere in April. So these things have not, that shows that, in spite of large Chinese investment present in Sri Lanka, this major project or major initiative is little known in Sri Lanka. So we need to improve. So Commonwealth, we had earlier Commonwealth Press Union link. So with the link, the Commonwealth Press, Union, it tried to promote human rights and democracy. So, but democracy and human rights are very, very subjective. What is democracy for one nation is a different democracy in another part of the world. Human rights too. In one culture, they will give individual human rights more stress and more power, more weight. Whereas in certain Eastern cultures, the weight is more on the community rights. So there is a conflict between when you talk about human rights also. So we leave that part, democracy and human rights apart, and we need to go for, as I said, the two things, world peace and promoting global justice. So with these words, I think I have taken more than the time allocated to me. I would say that the Chinese government and the BRI and the regional media organizations should come together and promote world peace through media connectivity and more awareness about this BRI network project. There should be more awareness created in our part of the world, especially in South Asia, in Sri Lanka, and because there are lots of outside forces at play. We have on one side we have the pivot to Asia. On other side, we have also something called the Indo-Pacific region being created. So with all these power plays, we need to, allay any suspicions and create, to promote world peace, we need to have a BRI news network. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.